Welcome. My name is John Brooker, and today we'll be reading from townhall.com an article by Daniel Pipes, which was posted October 4th, 2017. Islamist violence will steer Europe's destiny. Daniel Pipes is director of the Middle East Forum and a prize-winning columnist since 2000, writing for such newspapers as the Jerusalem Post, Philadelphia Bulletin, National Post, Australian, La Opinion, and La Razón. His website, danielpipes.org, is one of the most accessed internet sources of specialized information on the Middle East and Islam. Stockholm, Sweden. Visits to predominantly Muslim suburbs emerging outside nearly all northern European cities, one question keeps recurring. Why have some of the richest, most educated, most secular, most placid, and most homogeneous countries in the world willingly opened their doors to virtually any immigrant from the poorest, least modern, most religious, and least stable countries? Other questions follow. Why have mostly Christian countries decided to take in mostly Muslim immigrants? Why do so many establishment politicians, most notably Germany's Angela Merkel, ignore and revile those who increasingly worry that this immigration is permanently changing the face of Europe? As Viktor Orban's Prime Minister of Hungary stated, if Europe allows a competition of cultures, then the Christians will lose. These are the facts. Why does it fall to the weaker Visegrad states of Eastern Europe to articulate a patriotic rejection of this phenomenon? Where will the immigration lead to? There is no single answer that applies to multiple countries. But of the many factors, such as secularization, behind this historically unprecedented acceptance of alien peoples, one stands out as most critical: a Western European sense of guilt. To many educated Western Europeans, their civilization is less about scientific advances, unprecedented levels of prosperity, and the achievement of unique human freedoms, and more about colonialism, racism, and fascism. The brutal French conquest of Algeria, the uniquely evil German genocide against the Jews, and the legacy of extreme nationalism caused many Europeans, in the analysis of Pascal Bruckner, a French intellectual, to see themselves as a sixth man of the planet, responsible for every global problem from poverty to environmental rapacity. The white man has sown grief and ruin wherever he has gone. Affluence implies robbery. Light skin manifests sinfulness. Bruckner labels this the tyranny of guilt, and I encountered some colorful expressions during my recent travels of such hatred. A French Catholic priest expressed remorse over the record of the Church. A conservative German intellectual preferred Syrians and Iraqis to his fellow Germans. A Swedish tour guide put down fellow Swedes and hoped he would not be perceived as one. And also, the media promotes a childless lifestyle for Europeans, at the same time promoting open borders. Indeed, many Europeans feel their guilt makes them superior. The more they dislike themselves, the more they preen, inspiring a strange mix of self-loathing and moral superiority that, among other consequences, leaves them reluctant to commit the time and money required to bear children. We've got to either A, let more people in, or B, have more babies. Tick A. Europe is losing faith in itself, and birth rates have collapsed, noted Irish scientist William Revell. Worldwide fertility rates for developed and developing countries are dropping and will stagnate. 1/4 of the European Union now has a declining population. Low birth rates will result in shifting of talent base from established geographies to emerging geographies, giving rise to more remote work. The catastrophic birth dearth underway has created an existential demographic crisis, with women of the European Union bearing just 1.58 children average. As of 2014, the continent lacks the offspring to replace itself. Over time, this far less than replacement rate means a precipitous decline in the number of ethnic Portuguese, Greeks, and others. To maintain the welfare state and the pension machine requires importing foreigners. These two drives, expiating guilt and replacing non-existent children, then continue to encourage a massive influx of non-Western peoples, what the French writer Renaud Camus calls the Great Replacement. South Asians in the United Kingdom, North Africans in France, and Turks in Germany, plus Somalis, Palestinians, Kurds, and Afghans all over can claim innocence of Europe's historic sins, even as they offer the prospect of staffing the economy. As American writer Mark Stein puts it, Islam is now the principal supplier of new Europeans. The establishment, or what I call the 6 Ps, politicians, police, prosecutors, the professors, and priests, generally insist that everything will turn out fine. Kurds will become productive workers, Somalis fine citizens, and Islamist problems will melt away. That's the theory, and sometimes it works. Far too often, however, Muslim immigrants remain aloof from the culture of their new European home, or reject it, as most clearly manifested by gender relations. Some violently attack non-Muslims. Far too often, too, they lack the skills or incentive to work hard and end up in an economic liability. The influx of non-integrating Muslim peoples raises the profound question whether Europe's civilization of the past millennia can survive. Will England become London-stan, and France an Islamic Republic? Courtroom sketch of radical cleric Abu Hamza al-Masrulin in the dock at Belmarsh. The establishment castigates, dismisses, sidelines, ostracizes, suppresses, and even arrests those who raise such issues, demeaning them as right-wing extremists, racists, and neo-fascists. Nonetheless, the prospect of Islamization prompts a growing number of Europeans to fight on behalf of their traditional way of life. Leaders include intellectuals such as the late Oriana Fallaci and novelist Michael Houellebecq, politicians such as Viktor Orban and the Prime Minister of Hungary, and Geert Wilders, head of the most popular Dutch party. Anti-immigration political parties typically win about 20% of the vote, and while a consensus has emerged that their appeal will stay about there, perhaps reaching 30%, they could well continue to grow. Opinion polls show that very substantial majorities fear Islam and want to stop and even reverse effects of immigration, especially that of Muslims. In this light, Norbert Hofer recently winning 50% of the vote in Austria represents a potentially major breakthrough. The greatest question facing Europe is who, establishment or populace, will steer the continent's future. The extent of Islamist political violence will likely decide this. A drumbeat of high-profile mass murders, such as in France since January 2015, tilts the field toward the people. Its absence allows establishments to remain in charge. Ironically, then, the actions of the migrants will largely shape Europe's destiny. This video is a production of the School of the White Crane. My name is John Brooker. Thank you very much for sharing, listening, and please share this on social media.